You step out onto your small balcony, your tiny patio, or that little corner of your backyard and feel that same familiar frustration washing over you again. The few plants you put in pots last spring are barely hanging on. Your tomato vines look weak and yellow. The herbs you hoped would give you fresh flavor all summer are tiny and struggling. You water them, you feed them, you talk to them even, but at the end of the season you only harvest enough for a couple of meals. It feels discouraging. It feels like real growing power is reserved only for people who have big yards and lots of land. You didn't fail at gardening. The modern gardening advice failed you. They keep telling you that you need perfect rows spaced far apart, giant raised beds, and expensive bags of special soil just to get decent results. So those of us living in apartments with small European balconies or modest American backyards end up feeling limited and stuck. We buy more pots, spend more money, and still get disappointing harvests. Deep down, you know there has to be a smarter way, a way that actually works with small spaces instead of fighting them. Take a deep breath right now, because I have something that is going to change how you see your little outdoor area forever. You are not the problem. 2,000 years ago, the Romans had already solved this exact challenge. While the rest of the world was still scratching in the dirt with basic farming, Roman families in their beautiful villas and crowded city homes were growing incredible amounts of fresh food in pots. They turned tiny terraces, rooftops, courtyards, and even windowsills into highly productive gardens that fed their households all year round. This is not a modern invention. This is forgotten Roman wisdom. The ancient Romans were absolute masters of intensive container gardening. They called these productive little gardens Hortus. In places like Pompeii, Herculaneum, and across the Mediterranean, they stacked terracotta pots and created miniature food forests in the smallest spaces imaginable. Famous Roman writers like Columella in his book De Re Rustica and Pliny the Elder wrote detailed instructions because these methods worked so incredibly well. They regularly produced 3 to 5 times more food than traditional ground planting, all from containers. The reason this powerful technique has been mostly forgotten is honestly kind of annoying. It works too well and costs too little for big garden companies to make money selling you fancy solutions. They would rather have you buying new raised beds and truckloads of soil every year. But the old knowledge never really disappeared. It was quietly waiting for people like you who are tired of struggling in small spaces and want real results without needing more land. Today, I am going to bring this ancient Roman system back to life for you, in your own backyard or balcony. You already feel it when you walk past an old terracotta pot with herbs growing strong and healthy in it. There is something special about that natural clay and the way plants thrive when they are planted the right way. The Romans understood something we have mostly lost in our modern world. Plants don't have to fight each other for space when you arrange them correctly. When you combine them intelligently, they actually help one another grow stronger, share nutrients, shade the soil, and even protect each other from pests. That is the heart and soul of Roman intensive container gardening. The air around your balcony or small backyard right now carries everything your plants need if you just give them the right setup. Sunlight, gentle breeze, and your daily care are all you really require. Your small space is not a limitation anymore. It can become your own private Roman villa garden, producing fresh vegetables, aromatic herbs, and even some fruits week after week. What you are about to build is a complete food production system in pots that works with almost no ongoing cost and absolutely zero electricity. You set it up once properly, and it keeps giving all season long. Here's the beautiful part that always gets me. You do not need much to get started. The Romans did this with very basic materials that are still available today. Start with good quality terracotta pots if possible. The unglazed clay pots breathe just like they did 2,000 years ago, allowing air and moisture to move naturally through the walls. You can use modern plastic pots too, but terracotta gives you that authentic Roman feel and usually better long-term results. Get a few different sizes. Smaller 8 to 12-inch pots are perfect for herbs and salad greens. Larger 16 to 24-inch pots will become the powerhouses for tomatoes, peppers, cucumbers, beans, and even strawberries. You will also need some broken pieces of old pots or gravel for drainage. The Romans were very smart about this detail. They always put a layer of shards at the bottom so excess water could escape easily while still holding enough moisture for dry days. A few bags of good compost, some regular garden soil, and a little perlite or coarse sand to keep everything light and airy. If you have access to a wood stove or fire pit, save some wood ash. The Romans used ash regularly to add valuable minerals and adjust the soil pH naturally. A small amount of well-rotted manure or dried chicken manure pellets works wonders too. That really is almost everything you need. Most people can put together their first 3 or 4 highly productive Roman-style pots for $15 to $25 total if you shop wisely or reuse materials you already have around the house. Now, let me walk you through exactly how the Romans built these powerful little systems. The process is surprisingly simple and deeply satisfying once you understand their way of thinking. They never treated each pot like an isolated, lonely plant. Every single pot was designed as a complete, thriving mini ecosystem. Begin by choosing the sunniest spot on your balcony or patio. The Romans were very careful about placement because sunlight was their most valuable resource in crowded cities. Position your largest pot where it will get at least 6 to 8 hours of good direct sun every day. Start building the foundation the same way skilled gardeners did in ancient villas. Put a solid 2 to 3 inch layer of broken terracotta pieces or small gravel at the very bottom of the pot. This drainage layer is absolutely critical. It prevents roots from sitting in stagnant water while still keeping the soil moist longer than modern methods. The Romans knew from experience that healthy roots need both air and consistent moisture. Cover this drainage layer with a piece of old cloth, burlap, or even a few layers of newspaper. This simple step stops the soil from washing down and clogging the drainage holes. Now prepare the special soil mix that made Roman gardens legendary across the empire. They understood that ordinary garden dirt alone was never enough for intensive production. Mix roughly 50% high-quality compost, 30% good garden soil, and 20% perlite or coarse sand. Stir everything thoroughly until it feels light, rich, and alive in your hands. This combination gives the perfect balance. The compost feeds the plants steadily, the garden soil brings natural microbes and minerals, and the perlite keeps the mix from compacting over time. Add a generous handful of wood ash and some crumbled dry manure. When you fill the pot with this blend, you will notice right away how fertile and full of life it feels. The Romans knew this mix could easily support multiple heavy-feeding plants growing close together all season. Here is where the real Roman magic happens, and where almost every modern gardener still makes their biggest mistake. The Romans planted very intensively and smartly. They refused to waste even 1 inch of soil. In one good-sized pot, you can easily grow one strong central plant, like a cherry tomato or bell pepper, right in the middle. Then surround it with helpful companion plants. Place 2 or 3 sweet basil plants around the base to improve flavor and repel insects. Add fast-growing lettuce or spinach that will thrive in the light shade provided by the taller plant. You can even tuck in a few marigolds or nasturtiums to naturally keep pests away and add beauty. The plants support each other, just like they did in the luxurious villas outside Pompeii. The tall plants provide shade and structure. The low plants protect the soil surface from drying out, and the whole container becomes far more productive than you ever imagined possible from such a small space. You feel the power and intelligence of this method the moment you start arranging the plants carefully. It is no longer just putting seeds in dirt. It becomes the creation of a living, breathing community in each pot. Every inch of soil works hard for you. Every plant has an important role to play. This is exactly how the Romans fed their families even when living in limited city spaces 2,000 years ago. You watch day by day as your intensive Roman planting starts to explode with growth. The central tomato or pepper plant reaches upward, strong and healthy, while the surrounding basil, lettuce, spinach, and herbs fill every available inch around it. In just 4 to 6 weeks, you are already harvesting fresh leaves for your salads and aromatic herbs that make your everyday cooking taste like you stepped into an ancient villa. By the time the warm days of summer arrive, you are picking ripe cherry tomatoes or crisp peppers every couple of days from that single pot that fits easily on your balcony or small patio. This is the real power of Roman intensive container gardening that you are experiencing right now in your own backyard. You are not waiting for one big harvest at the end of the season like the modern books keep telling you. You are eating fresh from your own space week after week, all through the growing season, and even into the fall if you play your cards right. The plants support each other naturally, just like they did in the luxurious villas outside Pompeii and Herculaneum. The tall ones provide light shade for the tender greens below. The strong-smelling herbs repel pests that would otherwise attack your vegetables. The little flowers you tucked in attract bees and beneficial insects that keep everything healthy and productive without any sprays. Your small balcony or backyard corner now looks as beautiful and abundant as those famous Roman gardens from 2,000 years ago. You feel that quiet pride every single morning when you step outside and see how much food your little pots are producing. The Romans understood this completely, and they used it to feed their families even in crowded city homes with almost no land at all. They did not waste any space or any opportunity, and neither do you now. Every pot is working at full capacity, giving you more food than you ever thought possible from such a tiny area. For watering, the Romans had another brilliant trick that you can copy easily today. Many of them buried small, unglazed clay ollas right in the center of the larger pots. These little buried pots hold water and release it slowly and steadily right where the roots need it most. You can make your own version with a small terracotta pot turned upside down, or even a recycled plastic bottle with a few tiny holes punched in the bottom. Fill it with water once a day or every other day, depending on the heat, and the soil stays perfectly moist without any waste or guesswork. This simple method cuts your watering time in half and prevents the common problems of overwatering or underwatering that kill so many container gardens. You move the pots around with the seasons exactly like the Romans did in their villas. When the hot summer sun beats down too strongly, you shift the containers into a spot with afternoon shade. When the first cool nights of fall arrive, you bring the more tender pots closer to the house wall or under a simple clear cover to protect them from frost. In winter, you can even move the smaller herb pots inside near a sunny window and keep harvesting fresh flavor all year long. The Romans were masters at adapting to the Mediterranean climate, and you now have that same flexibility because everything is in movable pots. You feed the pots lightly once or twice a month with your own homemade compost tea or a handful of well-rotted manure, just like Columella recommended in his ancient writings. The rich soil mix you created at the beginning keeps giving steadily, so you never need expensive store-bought fertilizers. The whole system stays balanced and alive because you planted intensively with companion plants that work together instead of fighting for space. Now let us talk about the payoff that still amazes me every single season. In a traditional garden row, you might get a handful of tomatoes from the same space that one of your Roman pots now delivers. With this method, you are easily getting 3 to 5 times more food from the exact same square footage. Many modern gardeners in Italy, France, and England who brought this ancient technique back report 200 to 300% higher yields than their old scattered planting style. One large pot can give you dozens of tomatoes, continuous salads, fresh herbs, and even strawberries, all from a spot smaller than a doormat. You walk out with a basket and come back with dinner. No more disappointing harvests. No more buying sad supermarket produce that traveled halfway around the world. Your food is right there, grown by you, tasting better than anything you have ever bought because it is picked minutes before you eat it. The Romans fed their entire households this way, and you are doing the same thing today with almost no ongoing cost after the first setup. The true beauty is how this forgotten knowledge gives you back your independence. You no longer feel limited by a small balcony or tiny backyard. Your space has become a productive Roman Hortus that feeds you, looks beautiful, and connects you to wisdom that was almost lost. The big companies would rather sell you new raised beds and truckloads of soil every year, but the old way costs almost nothing and works better. The leaves on your plants stay deep green. The stems grow thick and sturdy. The fruit tastes sweeter and lasts longer because the soil and companions are doing what nature intended. You have closed the loop. You have brought back a piece of practical history that they tried to bury under modern gardening hype. You do not need to turn your whole yard into pots this weekend. That is how people get overwhelmed. Start with just 2 or 3 containers in the sunniest spot you have. Plant one intensive Roman pot exactly as I showed you. Watch it grow. Taste that first harvest. Once you see the tomatoes ripening while the basil perfumes the air and the lettuce stays crisp underneath, you will understand the power you now hold in your hands. The Romans built empires with this knowledge. You can build dinner with it. Your small space is no longer a limitation. It is your own private villa garden producing real food in real freedom every single day. If this journey back to the forgotten Roman way of growing has changed how you look at your balcony or backyard forever, please subscribe and like the channel. We are uncovering the practical history and survival wisdom that they tried to bury. Start growing your own future the ancient way. The next treasure of forgotten knowledge will be revealed very soon.